What's up, everyone? Welcome to What's Your Take? Let's talk goats, cheese, soccer, and more. Bring you your top headlines around the leagues for the week. I'm your host, Claudia Bellafato, joined by my fellow sports junkies, RJ Leviton and Aiden Doyle. Hit us up on Twitter at CBellaFatoTV, at RJ Leviton, and at Aiden Doyle. All right, guys, you both have a minute to give your take. Let's start with the NBA. It's been a weird season, of course. It was a weird season last season with all the COVID protocols, adding kind of an extra layer of questions when it comes to game time. Hasn't changed much, though, for players like LeBron, who had a season-high 46 points in the win over the Cavs, extending LA's road winning streak to 10-0, the new franchise record. That game also made him the oldest Laker to score 40 points in a game since Kobe's 60-point finale. And we can talk about LeBron for hours, I know. But for this first headline, let's talk Kobe. We just had the anniversary of his death. How do you describe this year without him? RJ, you want to go first?
Yeah, it's been a crazy year regardless of, him specifically, for everyone. But I think that especially when it started, end of January, it kind of cast a weird tone for the year, especially for the NBA season, and just kind of the fact that the year that he died, we got less basketball than usual, made it really, really sink in. I miss him like crazy, and it's wild because I feel like he was just about to start getting into a lot of the things that retired players get into, whether it be training with NBA players, whether it be doing the endorsements and creating the brand. And I know that Kobe is like an international type guy, so he could have gone extremely far. And I wish that we could have seen more of him, but it's also one of those things where his legacy is just bigger than that now. And we'll always have to go through this every year. And it sucks, but I definitely think that cemented him in a different way.
Absolutely. Aiden, what's your take?
I'd certainly echo all of those points that RJ just made. For me, though, it's thinking about the things that we knew he certainly enjoyed and was a fan of and tried to promote the best he could, and got to miss out on this year. Think about it. Passed away in January 26, 2020, and that year, obviously, last season, Lakers win a championship, and there's nothing that embodies Kobe Bryant, the Mamba mentality, more than winning, and specifically winning with the Los Angeles Lakers. So you got to believe that not only were they playing for Kobe, but if he were around, that is something he would have cherished as the first championship since he retired. Also, Los Angeles Dodgers win the World Series, first time since the 80s. I remember seeing a video of him at the 2018 World Series celebrating a Yasiel Puig home run off of Eduardo Rodriguez. Even though he wasn't necessarily a baseball player, obviously, still supporting Los Angeles, supporting their pro teams. And also, just the last point, think about the advancement for women in sports this season. We've seen a lot of women make strides, whether it's Sarah Fuller kicking for the Vanderbilt football team. You got to believe that that's something that Kobe, as a strong advocate for women's sports, he was the first guy to really don that orange WNBA hoodie, would have been proud of. And then also the strides that the WNBA made both on the court with ratings and off the court, being as socially aware and socially active as they've always been in such a turbulent year.
Right. And we mentioned LeBron, and it's huge that LeBron and the Lakers are going to kind of carry on his legacy. You couldn't really ask for a better person to do that. And I guess it's kind of like the GOAT episode, because we're going to move to another GOAT, this time the NFL. Speaking of veterans soaking up all the glory, Tom Brady, now 43 years old, in his 10th Super Bowl. And I roll my eyes because, for those who don't know, I'm a Patriots fan, so I'm a little butthurt. But let's talk about that other side of the NFC title win that got them to this point. And of course, that's Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers. And that's why I mentioned cheese at the beginning, just so everyone knows. Rodgers, after that game, said, "The future is a beautiful mystery." Okay, so what is the likelihood that Rodgers follows in the footsteps of Brady with his own kind of Buccaneers type opportunity?
For me, I don't think it's that likely. I think it's more just an example of obviously a player who expects to win every time he steps onto the gridiron, having to deal with a big loss as the number one seed at home. They had Super Bowl expectations. And, in the moments after a game like that, I'm not going to say you're not thinking straight, but you're not really having a full, thorough idea of what your future is. Now, does he have reasons to be frustrated with the Green Bay Packers and Coach Matt LaFleur? Absolutely. Drafting Jordan Love in the first round, ridiculous. Going for or kicking a field goal instead of going for it on 4th down against the Buccaneers, moronic. I mean, just a stupid decision. So he has reasons to be frustrated, but I think it was more just let me evaluate things, and I'm frustrated in the moment, but give me some time, and I fully expect him to be back with the Packers next season.
It is those frustrations that pushed Brady out, though obviously there were different frustrations, but something to think about. What do you think, RJ?
I think it's an interesting thing, especially with sports in general. I think the idea of being a hometown hero is a little bit different. I also think Aaron Rodgers is a specific type of player where even with one Super Bowl, his regular season performances and his, playoff performances have put him in a position where people talk about him as how great his greatness and top threes and generational top threes, things like that. And I think Tom Brady doing what he did this year and kind of put him, and you put the names of Tom Brady, Drew Brees, and Aaron Rodgers, they're synonymous on a certain level, and Peyton Manning. And now Tom Brady kind of upped the bar. And I think that Aaron Rodgers may see going to another team and getting another shot with a different type of organization, may see him as I can use that for my legacy. So I could see it being enticing, but I don't think he'll do it in the end.
One thing I will add, though, that is, again, different with the situations. Tom Brady was a free agent at the end of his contract. Aaron Rodgers is still under contract with Green Bay. So like you said, Claudia, there are some similarities, but the things that would have to happen in order for him to leave, it's a bit different.
I agree. Good point. Let's continue with the GOAT talk. For the first time since 1960, the National Baseball Hall of Fame will not have a new group of electees. None of the 25 players on the ballot reached 75% voting, which is what you have to have to get elected in. Pitcher Curt Schilling came closest, but shy of 16 votes, and then he was later asked to be removed from next year's vote. He put up some posts on Twitter and social media. Curt Schilling, 3-time World Series champion, but there's definitely been some controversy following his career, whether it's political or racist. Sounds like he should probably just stay off Twitter at this point. But I think the biggest thing here is that players are voted in not just based off their skills and numbers, but character and contributions off the field. So how accurate do you think that this decision of not inducting a player, because clearly they didn't think any of these 25 players had what it took on the field and off to be inducted. So how do you think that decision reflects these candidates, including Schilling?
I think it's I don't want to say surprising, but it's a controversial decision for controversial candidates. There are a lot of folks who think that the off-the-field aspects, or even the performance-enhancing drug use of guys like Barry Bonds or Roger Clemens on the field, should not be really factored in, or should not be a prohibiting factor from them being inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame. So there's definitely obviously a side that doesn't agree with that and wouldn't vote for them, as we've seen by no one getting elected. But they're all controversial. There's no shoe-in like the past couple of years with a Derek Jeter or Mariano Rivera, guys who eased in. Rivera at 100%, Jeter missed by 1 vote. There's nobody like that on this ballot. So it's just a question of how you're interpreting the character clause. There are people in the Baseball Hall of Fame right now who have legacies of racism, of being staunch segregationists, whether it's former Commissioner Kennesaw Mountain Landis, who did more to prohibit black players and people of color from playing in Major League Baseball than perhaps any other person in the league's history. He's in the Hall of Fame. Bud Selig, another former commissioner, basically turned a blind eye to the steroid era. He's in the Hall of Fame. So is it really fair that guys like Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens aren't, or that Curt Schilling is kept out while these guys have plaques or are in the Hall of Fame? Personally, I wouldn't vote for any of them. I don't think you should double down on a past mistake by committing another mistake. That's my personal opinion. But I understand the concept of the point of view where it's like, why are we creating this hall of sanctity and kind of just, choosing or being, I don't want to say consistent with the bars and the thresholds that we choose to uphold.
You went over your minute, but that's okay. RJ, do you agree?
I think that the Baseball Hall of Fame and the Football Hall of Fame are very, very strict. I think basketball is becoming a little bit more lenient year by year, but it's kind of goes to show also how difficult it takes to be a good player and be a great player in baseball. A lot of players can have streaks and little runs over a few seasons, but baseball is so much about consistency. It's so much about the mental strength and the mental toughness and being able to do that season in, season out. I mean, they're playing hundreds of games. It's really one of those, it's a testament to get into the Hall of Fame for baseball. And I think that it's not a bad thing that nobody got voted in. I think that it just kind of keeps emphasizing how difficult it is to get in and how difficult it is to be great over a whole career. And that's important for the game, especially the history of it. But I do think that there are some people that shouldn't be in it.
And they haven't made that decision on Schilling yet. They said they were going to consider it. Some people are fighting to keep him on it, even though he's made it clear that, he doesn't think, in a way, he kind of said he doesn't think he deserves it. He doesn't think he'll get that 75%. That's kind of interesting that he doesn't think he'll get that percentage. So we're just going to have to wait and see on that one. But let's go to soccer. I know you guys are excited about this one. Chelsea, not excited about the headline, but soccer in general. Chelsea has fired manager Frank Lampard just 18 months after taking on the position. Thomas Tuchel, hopefully I got that right. Soccer lovers, don't hate on me. Now in his place. As Lampard goes relatively new to managing in his third year, considered one of the greatest to ever play at Stamford Bridge, he did bring some success in his first year of coaching, but a series of losses recently led him to being cut loose. So how fair do you guys think this decision was in dropping him?
I mean, I think it's difficult because there have been managers at Liverpool with Klopp and then Guardiola at Man City and then Ole at Man U. There's been a lot of managers that kind of came in and they got time to build a system and bring in players and build a culture at their team that I think that Frank wasn't allowed. But at the same time, Chelsea is known of you don't have a lot of time and you have to prove yourself. And I've been thinking about it. He exceeded expectations wildly last year with a very young team. Had no transfers, couldn't bring anybody in, so he couldn't really put his culture into the team and didn't have the time to do that. So I feel like he wasn't allowed that time. But at the same time at Chelsea, if you're not winning anything, he did go to an FA Cup final and lose. And he's conceded more goals in his 18 months than a lot of the other managers. So I think that there were reasons to fire him. You do want to give him more time, but Chelsea isn't really known for doing that. So it's very expected. It sucks because, I love Frank as a Chelsea fan, and he's a great guy. But at the end of the day, Chelsea's about trophies. And if you're not even putting us in the position to win them, then you probably got to go.
Yeah, but you gave him one chance to win trophies. I mean, you gave him basically one season, and I understand that the expectations are that high. Trust me, I'm a New York Yankees fan. I understand the weight of expectations. But I just think it's a ridiculous take to have. You can't possibly expect someone with minimal coaching experience in the first place, and like you said, new players coming in and out through the transfer market, to just come in and immediately have success in the most competitive league in the world. And if you mentioned him, Ole out at Manchester United, his first 19 Premier League games with United, he had fewer wins and accumulated fewer points than Lampard did with Chelsea. And you see, they just lost to Sheffield United today, which is a brutal loss, but you see the success that they're having this year at or near the top of the Prem, and we'll see how it wraps up. But you can see the steps that Lampard needs to take or could have taken with Chelsea. You didn't give them enough time. You can see the growth with a young team, young players, like you said, putting that culture, putting that imprint on them, where they could easily be successful in the next couple of years if you just gave them time to develop. And they cut them too early, in my opinion. Expected, yes. Warranted, no.
I think that it's all about development. But Roman Abramovich, he loves his team, and as an owner, he doesn't like being embarrassed. And I have to say, we've been kind of getting embarrassed. We've been getting embarrassed for a lot. I mean, we literally have a 3 on our jersey. We keep conceding 3 goals. It's not a good look. The 3 on your jersey is just ugly, bro. And it's one of those things. It just happens. And I think that one day he'll come back, when he gets experience. But I mean, it's his 3rd season as a manager in general. When you're a top team, like Chelsea, you can't have that.
When you're a top team, expecting to be there for years and years, I'm sure.
I just think that with a top team, it doesn't make sense to go with such a young manager, and they need to get somebody with experience. Now, Thomas Tuchel is not that guy. Thomas Tuchel is not that guy. I don't think that makes sense. I think that maybe because with Christian Pulisic, they had a relationship, but at the end of the day, I think that they conceded too many goals. At the very basic, they conceded too many goals. They need to clean that up quickly.
Who do you have in mind that would be a good fit then?
It's hard to say because I really wanted Pochettino, but then PSG got him. So it's kind of, you got to wait. They're talking about the guy at Leipzig, and they might bring him in, but he has another year, so he has to finish his contract with RB Leipzig in Germany, and then maybe we can bring him in. But I think that Thomas Tuchel can be good for us in the interim, but we have to see if he's even going to get the time to develop a team.
We've Americanized his name.
Probably not.
Yeah.
Okay, let's finish with another GOAT. We have to because it's the GOAT episode. Tiger Woods. He has a new HBO documentary out, which is cool. I'm excited to see that. But he also did just have surgery in his lower back for some nerve pain he experienced following the PNC championship. So he's out for a little bit, not back. It sounds like anytime soon for the Farmers Insurance Open or Genesis Invitational next month. How many more years does he have? I know this isn't his first surgery, so what do you think, Aiden?
Not many. I mean, golf obviously has what used to be the Senior Tour and is now known as the Champions Tour. So, I mean, he could conceivably keep playing, and the way majors work is he'll keep being invited for at least the Masters moving forward. So you'll see him around. It's not like you're never going to see him again. But he's old by golf standards in general. He was old when he won the 2019 Masters, and his body is even older than that based off of the number of surgeries that he's had. It was incredible to see him come back and win the Masters 2 years ago. It was one of the greatest sports stories we've seen, certainly in recent memory, potentially just in sports history. But when you're looking for how much longer he's got to try and compete with the Bryson DeChambeaus, Dustin Johnsons, Brooks Koepkas of the world, who are hitting the ball a mile like young Tiger used to, and he's just not physically able to hang with them. So he needs a lot of stuff to break his way. If I were him, frankly, I probably would have walked away after the Masters. I mean, you came back, you went on top again, you won the premier tournament in golf, and you could have just walked away after that. But it's not easy to just walk away when you're as competitive as he is.
And that's how it is with all GOATs, as you want to say. Once they become veterans, they want to just keep being as good as they were. But I'm sure all of them come to that point where they're like, yeah, I probably should have left after that big win. But It happens. RJ, what's your take?
I think with Tiger Woods, it's interesting because when you're a guy like that, I think about Kobe, I think about Tom Brady, I think about, even Michael Jordan and LeBron, is that when you're that great and you spend that much time with this sport and your passion, it's not just difficult to give it up, it's like difficult to even see yourself in a different life. Yeah. And I think with Tiger Woods, especially with years that he lost to issues that didn't even necessarily have to do with physical ailments, I think that there's a level of he wants to get as much as he can out of it. And it's interesting to watch it happen. But I think that his legacy is already cemented, and it already kind of has a bow on top to a certain extent. I don't think that he can necessarily win any major trophies going forward. But I also think that, in the same way that people want Tom Brady and they want everyone to retire, it's up to them. If they feel like they can play at that level, then, so be it. Let them do that. But at the same time, they know when it's really time to quit, and they know mentally when it's time to quit. I think a lot of athletes mentally, that's when they quit rather than necessarily physically.
Only time will tell. All right, guys, that's our episode. Thanks for watching. Hit us up. Let us know what you guys want to see on the next episode. Until then, see you next week.